I'm Matt with Let's Talk Music, and I'm here with David of Nemesis RI. How we doing, David?
I'm good, Matt. How you doing tonight?
Doing all right, man. Just living the dream. So you
That's what
guys,
we call it.
right? So you guys are based out of Rhode Island,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
there is
well, we were.
right, and there's not much that comes out of Rhode Island. I mean,
Not a whole lot.
I got family up there. I got a cousin in East Providence and an aunt in Pawtucket. So
Mhm.
that's my dad's hometown.
Yeah, we had some good bands come out of like Boston area.
Right?
Like Malaya Rage back in the day. Remember those guys?
Yeah.
But no, I can't think of anybody came out of Rhode Island and went anywhere.
So where are you guys at now?
Long since broken up.
Oh, okay.
Long time ago. We were active in the '90s.
Right.
We recorded this 5-song EP in '95.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sat and collected dust for 25 years.
Yeah, I seen that when I looked at your the music encyclopedia or whatever, it was saying that you guys were parted ways in 2001, I think it was.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yep.
So what's you just decided to bring out the album, or I mean, what's going on?
So we recorded the thing in, like I said, in '95, and there was a little work for a couple of years after that here and there. Um, I was paying for the whole thing, and studio time's expensive, and I was a working stiff. I was installing tires for a living back then,
Right.
so $40 an hour for studio time. It was like once every month or two, I could book a day and go in and do some work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, well, I mean, I got divorced, had some financial problems, so it just stopped for like 15 years. Nothing happened, and it
Right.
was just kind of forgotten. One of those unfinished whatever that never got done. And like 2015, I want to say, I dug up the old demo that I had lying around. I called my old engineer, said, "Hey, do you still have the stuff that we were working on 15 years ago? Do you still have those files and Pro Tools and And he said, "Yeah." And we hooked up. We started working again. Um, we thought we were just going to pick up where we left off, but just too much had changed, too much time had passed, so we kind of started over again, mixing the thing.
Right.
And it really, because it really sounded like crap from 1995. So yeah, just kind of on and off for about 5 years. We get together for a few hours on a Sunday afternoon and mess around with some mixing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this close to being finished in March of 2020.
Yeah.
And you know what happened in March of 2020?
Right.
The world shuts down. And I got like four and a half of the 5 songs mixed. And I'm like dying because I can't get this thing finished now.
Yeah.
So ended up after waiting like a year and a half, the other guy never got back to me, kept putting me off, putting me off, putting me off. So I ended up finding another studio to mix the last song and finally got it released last October
Okay.
after 27 years. I just, because it was just one of those unfinished things, it's just music that was just kind of living in my head that nobody outside of the band really had ever heard.
Yeah.
And I
So
just wanted it out there.
are you still in contact with the former band members?
Yeah. Yeah. We're like, friends on Facebook and stuff. I jammed with my old drummer, I don't know, a few years ago. I keep bugging him like, man, we gotta jam again. I want to play, but people moved on. They have, they have lives, and some guys are married or whatever, and different things. You grow up. At
Yeah,
least that's what they tell me you're supposed to do. You grow up, right?
that I hear that a lot myself. So I always refer to Toys R Us. I don't want to grow up. So yeah, man. I listened to Santa Time, and it almost and I seen that like your influences, or if you were fans of like Slayer, Testament, whatever, and it almost put me in mind of some like old Anthrax.
Yeah, that is high praise to me. Anthrax is one of my favorite bands, man. So
Yeah, I mean, and it was you can feel that old school metal.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that's what it is. It's old school.
Right,
Unapologetically, this is old school metal. You know, this, like I said, the songs were written in the early '90s based on the stuff we were listening to in the '80s.
right, right.
Right, that's what we were influenced by.
As see, I was I mean, I'm not gonna ask you your age, but I'm almost I'll be 47 next month.
I'll
So
be 50 in a few months,
okay,
so
so
I'm right with you.
we grew up in the same era, more or less.
Yep.
So that was like the things that I was into, and it says, again, for fans of Slayer, Testament, Iron Maiden, Dokken, and I was like, oh, these are my people, you know. That was like the whole late 80s, early 90s hair metal scene was just my shit. I
Yeah.
loved the hair metal scene, and I really, for the longest time, attested grunge because of, they say that they killed hair metal, and I'm like, man, I mean, anytime that somebody's in town, I try to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla, one of my favorites. Um, just recently caught them for the first time. I remember I was probably 20, maybe 19, and they were at a record store here. They was on the Psychotic Supper tour, and they was out with Firehouse. And I went down to this record store. I got the autographs, met them, and everything. And for some reason, couldn't get out of work and go to the show that night. And
Oh,
like every time they've been in town, I've never been able to see them. Finally got to see them, man. And I'm telling you what, it was worth every second. I mean, I know that they're older now and probably not is like they used to be, but that it was great. It finally happened for me. And I mean, you know, it just that's my type of music, man. I love that era. And I'm a very nostalgic person. I mean, I've got a record player that I just got sitting next to me. It's a
nice.
Victrola. That's it's got the old school wood, and it opens up and locks in place, and it's new. It's Bluetooth
Mm-hmm.
thing, but it's supposed to be a vintage record player. And I was like, man, I fell in love with it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Cool.
So, and those are the things I miss, man, is like tapes, CDs, it's all streaming now. And to me, it's just not the same thing as being able to hold something in your hand and look at
Yeah.
it.
I just read that for the first time, vinyl has outsold CDs
Yes.
for the first time in a long time
Yeah,
because
they're making.
vinyls, made a big comeback.
Hmm.
I'm going to disagree with you though. I don't miss tapes, man. I don't miss having to rewind cassettes. I don't miss the tape coming out and having to spool it with a pencil and all that crap. No, I don't miss that at all.
That was one of my favorites, man. And I don't even know if it was necessarily because of the tape.
Mhm.
I want to say it was more of the jacket,
Yeah,
opening that up and reading the songs, and, who worked on it and
yeah.
stuff. And that was like one of the things that, I really retained that information. It was like I could go to school that day and forget everything I learned, but I go home with a new tape, and I'm like, and then for, 6 months later, somebody, oh man, you got that tape. And I'm like, oh yeah, this person engineered it, this one produced it, and they're like, why do you know this shit? And I'm like,
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you there. That is definitely, it's like an experience, like
right.
you get a new album, you open it up, you read the notes, you sit, you listen, you like really actually listen like in a room on good speakers. You're not streaming it on your laptop or your phone.
Hmm.
And it's just an experience. And you read the lyrics and you learn how to sing the song while it's going. And you, like you said, you read all the liner notes for who worked on it and everything else and who they're thanking. And yeah, that was good stuff. I miss those days.
Did you guys put out any tapes or anything back then?
No, I mean we never finished the thing back then. I looked into doing a physical release of this thing, but I mean it'd be like 4 grand out of my pocket to print 500 CDs and hope somebody's going to buy them.
Right.
So I mean if it's streaming on Bandcamp right now. If we get some sales on Bandcamp, I would love to. I would love to do a physical release, and do a pressing just for your point exactly, to hold the thing in my hand and say, yeah, this is it. This is,
Right. I made this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's just sort of this thing in the cloud.
Right. Right.
It doesn't feel the same. It's cool, but it doesn't feel the same.
So, what are you up to these days?
Musically, not a whole lot. I did release so during the pandemic when I couldn't work on the Nemesis RI project, I did release a solo album, I guess you'd call it. I just polished up some demos that I had. I mean, 'cause I've got dozens and dozens of songs that I've written and recorded myself over the years. So I did release an album of those demos in 2021. Um, I got probably two more albums in me, but you know, again, I'm going to be 50. We'll
Yeah,
see if anybody's really clamoring for this. If there's a big demand that people are like, yeah, this is great, then cool, maybe I'll record some more stuff.
right.
It's a lot of work if nobody's listening to
True, true.
it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a few bands recently that are guys that are coming back from one was they call themselves the Legion of Doom now, but it was the band Trouble and the Skulls. All of them guys got they just dude from Corrosion of Conformity, bunch of guys got together and I talked to them last night and I mean they're in their 50s or so. Another Burnout Wreck is a dude from what was that band? Heavy Petting. You remember them?
No,
They were big back in the 80s and 90s. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are just like, man, I've been sitting around for so long, all these years and stuff, and wanting to play, and finally got the guys together, and we're out doing it, and I mean, they're having a blast. I mean,
great.
and it's it's nice to see that. It's same with the like what we was talking about earlier with the 90s and the 80s bands. I mean, when they come through town, it's just really cool, even if it's just one member still.
Mhm.
I mean, one of my favorite ones to see when they come through is Great White, and it's Jack Russell's Great White now, but uh, love Great White. I won't go see the other one just because I think Jack Russell just kind of made that group with his voice.
Mhm. I'm in Rhode Island, so Great White's kind of a sore subject.
Yeah, true. That
Not a lot of Great White fans around here since the station fire.
yeah, that was the craziest thing ever, man. I mean, that was uh, when did that happen? That was what, back in
'03, I want to say.
'03, yeah,
Yeah,
because
because I think this we just did hit the 20th anniversary earlier
right.
this year, I think.
And then uh what was that? I think '04 that Dimebag, yeah, Dimebag was killed here in '04. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
it was probably 15 minutes from my house.
Wow.
I was actually supposed to go to the show that night and didn't make that, and I guess that's a good thing.
Good
But
thing, right? Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, those are two of the biggest tragedies in music since I've been alive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I forgot all about the whole Rhode Island thing, man. I'm sorry.
No, 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 that's fine. But just like, yeah, Great White. We kind of pretend that band doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I want to check out that documentary they just did. I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard it's really good, and it really tells the story from like everybody's perspective.
Yeah. I
So,
I don't know if I should be saying this on YouTube, but I have the dubious distinction that I used pyro at the station.
ah,
And, fortunately, nothing went wrong. But looking back on that, it's like, oof, yeah. Not cool.
yeah. I mean, accidents happen,
Yeah.
and it's just, I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, there was a lot of people that perished in that, and I mean,
Yeah.
the same with the whole thing with Dimebag. I mean, it wasn't nearly as many, but there was uh there was like employees at the club. There was guitar tech there. I mean, and then Vinny dies a few years
Mm.
later of a freaking heart attack. So that's another thing, Pantera. I'm like, okay, it's Phil and Rex. It's not Pantera. The Abbott brothers were Pantera. So, so speaking of which, man, what do you what do you just like to sit down and jam to these days?
Oh man. Oh, sorry, my phone was ringing there.
No problem.
Um, what I saw we were talking about bands coming through. I saw Heathen. Remember Heathen?
It sounds familiar.
The
Heathen?
Bay Area
Yeah, yeah,
band from the '80s. They're still around. I mean, yeah, again, same thing where only one original member is just David White, the original singer. I think
right.
is still touring with the band. But they came to Providence like 2 weeks ago, and I saw them in a club with like 40 people. I mean, it was not great for them, I'm sure, but amazing in terms of an intimate
Right.
club show with this band that blew my mind back in the day when I first heard the hell album was that Victims of Deception. Their second album is just incredible guitar sound on that. Just blows your mind when you hear it. But yeah, I mean, I still, for the most part, I'm still listening to the same stuff I was listening to 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't get old. I still, put shuffle on in the car and, jam along to Anthrax or Slayer or Testament or Maiden or Pantera. Metal Church band I love a lot.
Oh yeah.
Never made it as far as they should have, but and they got a new album coming out now with a new singer.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I actually I seen them open up for Metallica. So yeah, I love that song Badlands.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, man, it's just
That has been, I think, the cool part for me at least is seeing the bands coming back around now. Because I saw Metal Church in a club 5 or 6 years ago.
mhm.
I got to meet the guys and talk to Mike Howe and talk to Kurt Vanderhoof and shake hands and all this stuff. A real intimate kind of setting, which was very cool. But back in the day, a I was young and poor and couldn't go to as many shows as I wanted to go to.
Right.
And B, when you could, that you weren't usually, small venues like that,
Right.
right? When Metal Church came through with Metallica, they were playing like 4,000 seat theaters at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, that was still small for Metallica, but
This was Buckeye Lake Music Center, so I would say there was probably about 15 or so, 15,000 or more
oh
there.
wow,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a stage in a big ass open field.
okay.
So,
When that tour came through here in '86, they played Vets Memorial Auditorium, which is a smaller kind of venue, but I mean, still, again, now the bands come through and get to see them, and I don't know, it just feels cool. And yeah, we're all old. It's
yeah,
fine.
it happens to the best of us, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the guys, the Metallica guys and everybody, Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, all the guys in that generation are all 60 now. Think about that.
I don't want to.
And still out there, still out doing it.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, shit, you look at Kiss, they're in their 70s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, did you hear about this scuffle between Nikki Six and Carmine and Peace?
Mm-mm.
Look that up on Google.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, Carmine's in his 70s, and I guess put a beat down on Nikki Six
Wow.
in the streets of Los Angeles, right outside the Whiskey a Go Go.
And Nikki Six has got to be at least 60 too.
I think he's like 58, 59, somewhere like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So old men beating each other up. This is what's happening now.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean they were talking shit, I guess, back and forth on social media, and I seen that today. Like, how Facebook is. It's got the algorithm, and
Mm.
mine is mostly music. So 95% of my Facebook is music. It's news, new videos, new songs, whatever. Actually just did an interview with this band last night out in New York that's fairly young, female fronted man, really good music. And, that's the way I found them is because, I just reached out to them. I said, you have a publicist or anything? They said, no, we do all of our own public relations. I'm like, would you like to talk? Because, I'm down for finding bands and whatever I can to talk to. And, it was just, I was like, yeah, you just came across my Facebook. That's how I found you, you know? So yeah, I saw that that come through, and I was like, what? I mean, these guys are, I understand when Motley Crue was young back in the 80s and shit like that, and whooping ass and stuff, but come on, dude, you're like grandpa age now.
Yeah. Again, you think that, you grow up, right?
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, I like to think I'm mellower than I was 25 years ago.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, is there any possibility of any kind of reunion, do you think?
I mean, I'd love it. Let's put it this way, from your lips to my drummer's ears. I got myself a jazz chorus 120 sitting in my living room that I bought last year, hoping to get together and jam again. Collecting dust right now. I'd love to, and again, if the reaction to this EP is good enough that there's enough interest, I'm sure I could round up some people to make something happen. I mean, I don't know about the original members because they've all moved on to other things, but I would love to
Right.
at least get together with my drummer again and maybe whatever, find a bass player, find another guitar player, that kind of thing, and do something. But you know, again, we're old. We all have jobs.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
The the
you
rock and roll dream is long since passed. We're not, quitting our jobs and going out to live in a trailer and go on tour because those days are done.
right. But I mean, even just to get together and jam,
Yeah.
and maybe play a couple of gigs, near home or whatever for the the release of the EP.
Yep. Would love to do that. Would
And
love to do that. So to everybody watching, go download the album on Bandcamp, get me some numbers so that I can then say, hey, look, there's demand. We've got to do this because people want to hear it.
have you checked out the numbers lately?
Yeah, they're not great. I mean, I get regular reports from Bandcamp, and I hoped for a little better. I mean, I knew we weren't going to sell thousands and thousands of copies of the thing, but it is what it is.
You on Spotify?
Say again?
Are you on Spotify? Did you?
Yeah, we're not on Spotify. Some of it's a little complicated because there were other writers of the songs.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's not just me.
Right.
There were other former band members who contributed to songs, so everybody gets a piece of royalties and all that.
Hmm.
So I can't just let it all stream for free. It's not up to me alone. I've got
Right.
other people to consider. So we're just on Bandcamp for now,
Hmm.
but it's $1, literally $1. That's it. As
Well,
cheap as they let me set it, $1.
I will be sure to pitch in $1 after our interview.
I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
not even about the money. If I could have said it for less, I would have said it for less, but $1 is the minimum that they'll let
Right.
me do it
Right.
for.
Yeah. I mean, it's I like it. Like I said, man, it's old school metal. That's what I grew up on. Um, it was kind of, I guess when I seen the press release, it didn't really dawn on me that you guys weren't together anymore. I thought that maybe there was like a long hiatus or something, and you guys just released this album. So I was kind of confused, in what we were talking about in the beginning, but
Yeah, it
the
was
fact.
just collecting dust for a long, long time before I finally, finished getting it mixed and mastered and released last year.
So you're the only one that took the initiative to do this.
Yeah, and even back in '95, I mean, because even in '95, most of the band had broken up. It was only me and the drummer who recorded it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
even at that point, other people had left and split. But I had my taste in the studio, right? Like, we went in and recorded like an earlier version of this thing, like 3 songs in like '91, and that was my first experience in a recording studio.
Hmm.
I was like 18 years old walking into this place that, looking back now, was this rinky dink little thing in some guy's basement. But to me at the time, it was like the Starship Enterprise, like with
Right.
all the lights and panels and everything. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I've got this thing in my head, these ideas, and I can record it and I can hear it back with multiple guitars. And wow, this is great. So even when the band split up, I'm like, yeah, I've got to keep recording. Like, I'm going to finish recording these songs because I love doing it. So, I funded the whole thing out of pocket. It was like 20 grand, which obviously took a long time to do because I
Right.
didn't have 20 grand.
Yeah.
It was a little bit at a time. Um, and Frank, my drummer at the time, he played on everything with me, but it was just me and him. And I did the, bass and guitars and vocals and everything else.
But see, I mean, that really, I think, shows um, what kind of man you are. You know what I mean? As far
Thanks.
as musically, you took something that you said was collecting dust. You made sure that it got finished. It's been 20 something years, and you did all this on your own, and whether it sells like you want it to, or it just is out there, I think you've accomplished what you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And that was it. It was just, it's got to be out there. It can't die when I die.
Right.
Right. And I
Yeah.
mean, when I did the solo album, that was the same idea. It's like I got all these songs nobody's ever heard, nobody's ever gonna hear. I got to at least get them out in the wild someplace
Hmm.
so that when I'm gone, they're still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
I mean, and
exactly.
there's programs that you can, get that you can actually do your own mixing and mastering. I mean, it's not going to sound the greatest,
Mhm.
unless you're like really tech savvy. But I mean, to even get out some of your solo music, would be pretty cool too. I mean, it's I feel like music is just it's a passion. It's a
Mhm.
passion, it's a lifestyle, it's a community. There's so many different ways you can put it. There's so many different ways that music does things for people. Whether you're playing it, listening to it, producing it, whatever. I mean, you have to have a love for it to be part of it, you know.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly why I do it. You said it perfectly. That's what it's about. Like I can listen to a song like, I don't know, Hallowed Be Thy Name, and I feel something like, oh yes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So then like over the years, like I've written something, I write a riff and I get that same feeling from
Yeah.
something I wrote. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that's awesome. I want somebody else to have that feeling.
Right.
I want to be able to pass that on now to somebody else to get that feeling that these other bands did for me that made me feel something.
Yep.
Whether it was like sad or angry or just throw my fucking fists in the air.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know exactly.
that's it. That's why I do it.
And see, you talk about that right there. One of them, I'll tell you, I off the top, I've seen hundreds of concerts, but off the top of my head, I'd say the loudest one I ever seen was Testament. The
Loudest?
most amazing one I've ever seen, stage wise and everything, was Pink Floyd. Uh, Metallica was one of the most amazing just shows, period. Because I've always just loved Metallica,
Yeah, me too.
but the best lineup, and it was freaking awesome. God rest their souls. Ronnie James Dio, Motorhead, and Iron Maiden together.
I remember that tour. That
Yes.
was like 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that in Worcester, Mass. Yeah, yeah. I remember that tour. I remember that show.
Yep. That was probably the most amazing lineup I've ever seen. And I remember they had that big old Eddie that was walking back and forth in the background of the stage.
Hmm.
Yeah, Iron Maiden, man, they've always put on a great show. And
Oh yeah,
from what I'm hearing now, they're getting ready to retire, which, I mean, they've done it
they've
all.
earned it. They're
Right.
like 65. That's when people retire.
Right. They've done it all. I mean, they've got their own damn plane, and Bruce
Yep.
Dickinson's just done so much with, all his adventures, and the other guys have too. And I mean, they've been around forever. They've seen the world. I mean, what else can they do? You know what I mean?
Whatever they want.
Right. But you know what I mean? It's like, musically, what else can they do? People were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're quitting." I'm like, they're not quitting. They're just done. They've done what they can, everything they can possibly do.
Right.
There comes a time when you just gotta say, okay, man, I just gonna live out the rest of my life, chilling. So yeah. But man, it's great to talk to a fellow rocker like yourself. I mean, being close in the same age and the same music. That's always fun. And that's kind of what this is. I ask some basic questions about your music and stuff, and then I just talk to you about music. You know what I mean? That's why I call it Let's Talk Music. I'm not all, you know, so why did you guys break up, and who hurt who, or I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's not my business. I don't want to open up old wounds or whatever. You know what I mean for people. So I just like to talk about music, and that's why I call it that. And this is just a way of me being able to help independent bands or people like yourself that just spent all these years getting this together, and I can say, hey, this is David, and this is what he did, and whether it gets 5 views or 5,000 views, it just I'm not my numbers ain't great either, but you know what, I keep doing it because I love it. you know
That's why you got to do anything, man. That's great.
right. And I mean, it's for my love of music. And I've been getting a lot of bands recently from Europe, and that their metal is different than our metal.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's been great, man. It's really opened up my eyes and my ears and my mind, and getting to talk to these people from different countries. That's the great thing about this technology is I was telling one guy the other night, I said, man, I said, if I'd have been having this conversation with you 20 years ago, I said, I'd be getting my neck wrung because my mom would see the phone bill that was like $150 for me talking. So, I was like, yeah, this is awesome technology. So, but it is, man. I mean, it's done a lot. And, even being a nostalgic guy and missing my, MTV and my Headbangers Ball and my stuff like that. I mean, the stuff that's come out now, the socials, the YouTube, all that stuff, it has been very helpful to artists that are not that don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on a video. So times changed, man. It is what it is. Even though as much as I'd like to go back to like about I'd say about 92. Yeah, well, that's done and gone.
I wouldn't mind 92. I don't necessarily want to be 19 again.
Yeah, yeah, I was.
You know?
It just, like I said, it was good times back then, man.
Yeah.
But David, I appreciate your time, man.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you for just chatting with me and stuff. And I'll get this up on YouTube and I'll send it over to you via email. And man, if you get you got my email address. So if you got any new stuff that you put out or anything that you would like to get heard, just send it my way.
Will do.
All right, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
You too. Good to meet you.
You too. Bye.